How's it going? So, if you are lucky enough to be watching this video or listening, pay attention. This is a really good, informative topic, and it's actually one of the most helpful ideas and theories that I've basically had lately, or for this, I'd say this year maybe. But it's called hills and valleys. So, and the concept is really awesome because you know it's so true, yet it's something that you haven't really thought about. But it's all about like the hills and valleys of our lives. So the easiest way for us to prove these hills and valleys exist is with our bank accounts. Now that's just because our bank accounts have numbers in them, and numbers are much easier to plot on a track. But essentially, our lives are always going through either, we're going up a mountain or we're going down into a valley. And the baseline is our standards, okay? So we are essentially our lowest standards. And I know that sounds a bit harsh, but it's the truth. We are literally, as where we are in life is essentially the absolute lowest of our standards. Now, if you have high standards, then you are doing much better. You're above the people that have lower standards, because we basically do the bare minimum almost all the time. All of us. It's just a human being thing. We want to burn less calories. We want to do less work. We don't want to stand outside of the group, to be afraid of isolation or whatever. But so what happens is, like I said, our bank accounts are our best way for us to plot this. But we'll make a bunch of money, right? We'll be at the top of the mountain and we'll be feeling great, and then we'll start feeling like we can relax a little bit. And then once we get to the top of the mountain, we'll start relaxing, and then we'll start going down, and we'll spend all of our money, and then we'll hit a point, where we'll start to panic. Some people it's like $1,000, some people it's like negative $200. It doesn't matter, but we'll get to that panic point, and we'll be like, oh shit, I got to get back in gear. And you'll start working, and then you'll start making more money or whatever, and then you'll go back up, and then you'll go back down again. But we basically are always in this flux between, panic at the bottom and then relaxation at the top. And the middle is basically our par. It's where we stay at. It's our standard of living. And this is just very interesting because we do it without even knowing. We'll get to a certain point, a certain amount of money in our bank account, and then we'll just spend it all and feel like we're on top of the world and we can relax a little bit, and then we'll start losing our money and get our bank account down to zero or whatever, and we'll start panicking and get our shit together, and we'll blast it back up, and it's not just our bank accounts. It's almost all things in life. It's how messy your house gets, your standard of how clean your house is. It can get super out of hand, and then it can be super clean again, and then it kind of fluctuates back and forth. It can be our social life. How many people are you talking to this month? Are you talking to too many people? Are you talking to nobody? Do you need more conversations? And it just goes back and forth. And it's just really interesting to be able to know about where you are right now in your hills and valleys. So if you're starting a new project, something that is important to you, or you're just trying to figure out your life, and you want to know basically where your levels are, it's important, or it's a good idea to plot it out a little bit. And you don't have to plot everything out at once, but if you plot just one thing, and like I said, your bank account is an easy one to look at. You can see, okay, whenever I have this amount of money, I tend to slack off, and then I start to crash again, and then I start to pick myself back up. So then right in the middle of those is your standard. And so once you find your standard, you can basically raise it. You can see that, oh shit, if this is like right here in the middle, this is my par. Whenever I get to this level, I need to get my shit together now before it gets too far out of hand, and then I get into super panic, And that's how you can become rich. That's how you can raise the bar, raise your standards of living. So, like I said, if you're starting a creative endeavor or you're starting a new business, start to plot where your business goes, because it happens with businesses too. You know, and it can be seasonal, of course. There's lots of reasons why businesses go up and down, but it's also just important to see, like, your business can start getting up, you know, and you'll hit a point and then it'll start crashing back down because all your salesmen have gotten paid, and then it'll go hit the panic button, and everybody has to make rent again, and everybody has to work, and it'll go back up. And if you can find out what your bar is at the middle, it means you can set an alarm, you know, in your head and be like, okay, I'm at par and I don't want to go back down to being broke again. This is now my new panic level, right? And then you'll push it up. And then once you hit the top of the mountain and you feel like you can relax, you'll be able to plot, okay, I'm at the top right now and I want to keep going up. What is my new par? What is my new standard? And then you can keep going up. And that's how you can raise your standard of life. You know, I feel like a lot of people just use the 0 in your bank account as the panic button. But if you're smart, you can start picking a different number, you know. Start seeing, you know, if you have less than $1,000, less than $10,000, less than $100,000, that you need to start acting different. You have to start, so that you don't have to get into that panic mode where you have to push yourself up. And it's just kind of funny because, you know, on both sides of the spectrum, we've all been there. So this is why, like, if you're at the bottom right now, you have this comeback power, right? Because you have this void to fill to push yourself back up. And we've all, I feel like, or at least I definitely have, where you just are shit out of luck for a long time, and then you just finally get it. You get it in your bones, like, I'm gonna make this work, and then you start to boom, you know, take off and start doing a lot of work, and you really get your shit together. And then you get to the top and you start relaxing, and you don't work as hard, and you don't, you know, push yourself, and then you go back down, and it's just this constant roller coaster of life. And somewhere in the middle, that's really where we are, and that's where our own personal image of ourselves lives, and that's where our own, you know, self-talk basically sits. It's the picture of ourself. And again, like, the hardest part for us to come to grips is realizing that we are the lowest standard for ourselves. Because I'm not saying that to be mean, but it's just the truth. You know, we need to raise our standards if we want to be more productive, to live a happy life, to be the person that we want to be, you know, that we see in all of our goals. So it's important to, like, not slack off on the little things just because you can. I mean, it's more important to rest and relax, but it's, if you have a schedule that's being productive, that's working well, you know, you want to stick to it, and you don't want to slack off, basically. And I think you get the idea, though. The hills and valleys of our lives. And it's just very interesting to think about because, like I said, it's not just for money. It's about everything. Every aspect of our lives is a picture that we have of ourselves. You know, the psycho-cybernetics of the way that we think of ourselves is essentially who we are. So if you have an idea and you take, you know, complete ownership of your life, you'll see, like, this is my panic place. Here is where I, you know, how high I can get to, and before I start slacking off, you know, and not, you know, keeping it up. And it's just funny because we think a lot of this stuff is just kind of like a whim, you know, it just sort of happens. But when you start plotting it out on a, you know, dry erase board or in a notebook, you'll see that there's a pattern. You'll see that things aren't necessarily just happening on a whim. You know, nature, you know, has its seasons for sure, but they're pretty, you know, relatively chartable, you can figure it out. And once you take complete ownership of all the seasons of your life and all the modalities, you can start to work, and you can just start getting it better and better, 1%, you know, each day, 1% better. And that's how you make, you know, insane progress on your life. The power of investing in yourself, you know, and just getting 1% better each day or each week or each month. But you have to know where you're trying to go. You have to know what it's like when you're in that panic mode, and you have to know what it's like when you're at the top, and you have to just raise your standards to say, okay, I'm going to start panicking now at the top, and I'm going to raise my standards. This is the new me. I'm going to dress nice. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to work out. It's the same with, health. We let ourselves get, too unhealthy, and then we have to start taking better care of ourselves. Whereas if we just raised our standards of self-love and self-care before it gets out of hand, that's what it's all about. Take care of yourself, love yourself, raise your standards, be strong, have self-discipline, take the stairs, eat the vegetables, put some money in your savings account. So, hills and valleys, that is my 2 cents on the matter. And it's just really cool if you think about it, and if you actually take the time to actually plot it out, see where you're going. I do a lot of marketing and analytics. I love analytics, but I really am going to try and focus this specific idea on when I'm getting the most work done, or the most progress. Like when am I actually, when do I feel creative, and when do I get shit done, and then when am I slacking off and I just can't even look on my computer. And then I'm going to find that, and I'm going to raise it, and I'm going to make a plan to always keep raising that bar, so that I'm constantly being the most productive, eating the frog first, and staying on top of it. And then there's lots of other aspects you can do this for your life, but I'm excited about that. So hills and valleys. Think about yours. Take care.